Do you feel like you're in competition with your daughter to be able to get his attention? Do you feel like your kids might be a higher priority to the toxic guy in your life than you might be? Do you feel like there's someone else in his life that right now you have to vie for his attention? Being like, wait a second, do you see me? I'm over here. I'm your wife. I'm your partner. I'm the person that's in your life that should be the most important, but for some reason, he's got his attention elsewhere. I want to talk to you today about triangulation and some of the manipulative tactics that narcissists are using to be able to leave you stuck, tied in that toxic relationship, not able to actually heal and move forward for you. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel, turned abuse recovery coach to help you actually break free from the toxic relationship that you're stuck in. If you're unsure how to be able to heal, how to be able to move forward, how to be able to find you, your purpose, and your vision again of who you actually are, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk on how to be able to help you heal and grow and develop you. When we talk through this piece of triangulation, oftentimes you're going to find the narcissist that will bring a third person or a third party or different people in as the third person inside of this triangle aspect. Now, the triangle aspect is the idea of you have the narcissist, and you have a third person. Okay, so if you connect all the points, you got three people, you got 3 points, you have a triangle. Inside of this triangulation, there's multiple aspects and there's multiple facets to it. We might not be able to cover every single aspect of it, but I want to touch on some of the pieces. One of the ones that we'll see is a narcissist that will use the kids to triangulate you. This could be the kids to be able to pit them against you. This could be where you start to have distrust with the kids. This could also lead to parental alienation, where the kids actually don't even talk to you anymore because they think that you're the toxic one. What he's doing inside of there is he's doing a term called triangulation, pitting other people against each other. Now, you can think of this in one term of, you might have heard the phrase of like divide and conquer, right? He's like dividing two people so he can conquer both of them. So he can make sure that he wins because he keeps people confused, lost, alone, and isolated from each other so they don't talk, so they don't get to a place where it's actually in a healed environment. So you might have an aspect where you're talking to the narcissist and he's talking to the kids. And as a result, he's telling the kids and he's painting a story and a version of reality that paints you as the abuser. And all the while you're trying to communicate to him, he's telling you that you're the abuser. Then all of a sudden the kids come back and they're like, yeah, mom, you're the abuser. And you're like, wait a second, what's going on? Then you start to see that there's a manipulation, like a layered effect where he starts to use the kids to try to be able to influence and be able to actually gaslight you even more. There's a manipulation piece. Now, there might be different pieces where you have interactions with the kids and he has interactions with the kids and he sells you a different version of reality. He tells you how the kids did this or the kids didn't do that. And then it starts to frame your ideology about the kids. It starts to frame what you think or how you respond. He might give you a half-truth so that you go off and you're like upset. You're like, I can't believe you do that. And the kid's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that. But all it does is it fosters this piece of distrust. And it starts to break you and the kids apart from each other. Now, one of the fallacies that happens inside the manipulation of being in a toxic relationship is you actually sticking up for him. Now, what do I mean by that? Because you're like, I've been in the abuse. Why would I do that? You start to stick up for him by actually lying to the kids. And one of the easiest ways that you do this is you start to minimize the abuse that's happening. It's also another aspect of this manipulation that happens where he keeps manipulating you. And because you feel shame and guilt, you want to hide it and suppress it and protect the kids. But ultimately what you do is you sell the kids a version of reality that dad's a good guy. And then all of a sudden when shit hits the fan and their family falls apart, they blame you. And they blame you because you weren't honest with them. They blame you because they had no clue. They blame you because they get used to being in a toxic environment, feeling the toxic energy, sometimes getting to the place where they're abused mentally and emotionally and physically, and they blame you because you're the one that minimized it. This is one of the fallacies and one of the problems of moms that actually stay in toxic relationships thinking, well, I'm doing it for the kids. You're actually doing it for yourself. To avoid shame, to avoid guilt, to avoid the problem, to avoid confrontation. You're not doing it for the kids. Because in reality, when a kid is around a narcissistic person over a period of time, it erodes their sense of self, it hurts their ego, and they have a high propensity of becoming a narcissist or getting codependent where they go and they marry a narcissist anyways. So we need to back up and understand this piece of manipulation is going to go all different levels and all different aspects. So with the kids, it's going to get really confusing. Because there's going to be a triangulation effect where he's going to talk to you about one thing, talk to the kids about one thing, try to pit each other against. Oftentimes he'll use this to try to get to a place where he has you parental alienated, where the kids don't talk to you anymore. They're like, mom is toxic. She lied to us all these years. She keeps reacting. She keeps yelling. She keeps responding that way, all because of his poking and prodding and creating a reactive abuse environment where he made you act crazy. And then as a result, he's telling the kids, yeah, see, mom, she's kind of having a hard time. I think she might be a little crazy today. He's slowly implanting ideas that are going to splinter and segue away people inside of relationships. So oftentimes you'll see this inside of the family and inside of with the kids. You're going to see this sometimes with other people. One of the common ones is you might see this with a coworker. You might see this with another family member. You might see this with another woman. Like he's got another woman and he's actually brought her around. And what he's done is he's communicated to that woman about how you're not a very good wife. How like he's actually a victim in the relationship. But he might have brought her around to kind of interact with you. And then you kind of had this like vibe of like, oh, I'm kind of worried about him. Like, is he cheating on me? Like, what's going on? And then he's like telling you like, no, like she would never do this. Like, I don't even like her that way. He's triangulating. He's putting two different stories, two different versions of reality to try to be able to split, to try to be able to separate, and I'll try to be able to control other people. Now, he could use this in a way to be able to get more attention. So he could interact with coworkers and friends, and he could interact a certain way, and you see that, and you're like, wait a second, like he doesn't show up like that for me. Then he comes to the home, and he comes to interact with you, and he doesn't show up that way, and you're like, well, what do I need to do? And so you raise the bar. You try to show up better. Like, well, maybe if I do my hair better, maybe if I dress up, maybe if I act better, maybe if I work out, maybe if I shift my body, all these things, you start to modify you to try to be, like, have him pay attention. But the problem in the reality is he's not paying attention because he doesn't actually care. He's not actually looking at you for the outward piece of like, oh, here's someone that loves and cares about me and is showing that. He cares about like, what is he going to get for himself? And how does he keep getting over and over and over again? You see, my wife went through a period of time where she tried to adjust everything about herself. She tried to adjust how she dressed, tried to adjust her hair, tried to adjust like all different pieces of her that she tried to modify. And the reason she tried to modify it because she kept doubting herself, wondering, why does he pay more attention to other women? Why does he pay more attention to other people? Why does he pay more attention to work? Why does he pay more attention to all these other things? So she tried to adjust who she was. And when she tried to adjust who she was, she started to lose her reality of who she was. She started to lose the version of her that she actually loved and cared about. There's a piece of her that got lost inside of the translation of her trying to figure out, how do I make him see me? Reality was one of the hardest things for her. And one of the hardest things, again, to be able to find herself again. To bring herself back from a place where she was no longer looking to serve and try to make me see her. But instead, she was trying to have herself see her own self. Who she actually was. Inside of this, I want you to consider that there's a relationship in your life that he might be using to manipulate you. To get more attention, to get more affection, to get more sex, to get like whatever it might be. To get more money. He might be using you to try to be able to pit you against someone else, to try to be able to manipulate and control who you are and how you actually show up. This piece is huge. Because what you'll find over a period of time is he'll manipulate you to such a degree that you just stay confused. I want you to consider for a moment, this came up inside of our Thriver coaching call the other night. The simple aspect that he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to win an argument. He doesn't have to look like the best guy when he comes home. He doesn't really have to provide. He doesn't really have to do anything except one thing. Keep you in a fog. Because if he can keep you in a fog, you won't make a decision. You won't actually leave. You won't actually heal. You won't actually work on you because you're too confused. What do I do? You're too confused. Is it me? Is it him? Why am I in this situation? And you'll spiral out. That'll leave you in a victimhood mindset. That'll be like, everything's happening to me. I can't figure this out. And the more you proclaim that over yourself, the more it actually becomes a reality. Because it leaves you stuck mentally and emotionally, not sure how to be able to heal, not sure how to be able to move forward. The triangulation is going to be a very difficult piece, pitting you against another person. Oftentimes, that person and you might have never even talked. You might not even have a clue about that person. And then you're like, well, wait a second. Why? What's their problem with me? You're going to see this inside the relationship when you get into a relationship with a narcissist and he kind of like pre-frames people in his past. Hey, just so you know, the last relationship I was in, she was really toxic. So she might reach out saying that I was the toxic one because she's hurt and she can't really deal with it. You're going to see different things. He's going to pre-frame other people that you never even met before. But he's going to do this so that he can actually be in control. He can triangulate you against the other person, and he can control the narrative. What he's trying to control inside of this is not you, is not the other person. It's the narrative. It's who he actually is. He's trying to control everybody's impression and vision of who he actually is so he can feel better about himself. Because if he had to pull back the cover and actually see who he actually is, he'd run away. Because he doesn't want to admit that he's a monster. He doesn't want to admit that he's an asshole. He doesn't want to admit that he's a person that keeps abusing and using you over and over and over again. The hard part is you might be watching this and you don't want to admit that it's been happening either. And as a result, it's left you stuck far longer than you actually want to be. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you're simply just confused. Like there's a piece of you that just feels like you're in a fog, mentally and emotionally. You just feel drained, not sure the next steps, not sure how to be able to heal. But inside of all this, I want to invite you to an opportunity for you to be able to heal fully without confronting with him, without dealing with him, but by focusing on you, your healing, your growth, your development. I want you to go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. It's an opportunity for you to see a video from me, hear what I do. And if it resonates, click forward, fill an application, and schedule a call. Because I want to help you break free once and for all from the toxicity that you're currently struggling in right now.